All right, guys, what's happening? I'm just now getting back with this Triumph T595 where we installed a G2 quick throttle and a new set of grips. So I took her out for about an hour, was hitting some pretty decent twisties. I've got some areas where I can really lay the bike over on some right-handers and some left-handers. Now, remember, this bike is a 955cc triple, and it is pretty snappy from the factory. So what did I think about that G2 quick throttle? Was it too much? Well, let's go duck into the office and chat about it. By the way, guys, before we get into that, the Shoei RF 1400 that I did the review on is, or was, I should say, hammered with some bugs tonight. Quick update after about 3 or 4 hours worth of ride time with this thing. Still like it a lot, guys. It's breaking in nicely, and I do still definitely highly recommend this helmet. But let's get back to that throttle. All right, guys, so why go with the throttle to begin with? Well, there's a few reasons. If you've got an older bike, the cam that controls the cable, if you're obviously running a cable throttle, can get worn out. You can see this is getting a little bit thin out here at the very edge. But the main thing is talking about the little keeper here. But the main thing you want with a quick throttle or any other aftermarket throttle is either more throttle response out of your bike, or you want it to be more calm down low and then ramp up to a more aggressive or your stock throttle camming, if you will, kind of like throttle mapping with an electronic throttle. You can adjust that with these types of parts. Now, what I wanted to try to achieve with my bike was an ability to roll into wide open throttle a little bit sooner. There were a couple of reasons for this, and really, to be honest, it didn't have a lot to do with wide open throttle. I wanted to be able to roll into about 3/4 throttle a little bit more quickly. The reason for that is, well, for one, coming out of corners when I wanted to accelerate, my arm position and my hand position was just kind of tweaked, especially when you're off the bike and you've got the thing really leaned over. I like to have a little bit more fine control of that throttle. And number one, this old stock throttle had a little bit too much inherent play in it, which I didn't quite like. So there was that. But the main thing is that I wanted a little bit faster throttle response out of this thing. And what that also allows is for a better blip. When you're downshifting with one of these older bikes, it doesn't have a quick shifter for up or downshifting. You are the quick shifter. And the best way to do that is by throttle blipping. And if you've got a larger cam, this is what the cam would look like if this was an adjustable. But look at the size, the difference. The bigger the cam, the faster that throttle will act. If you've got a bigger cam on your throttle, you can actually blip it easier because it takes less wrist to whack the throttles open more. So it basically, for me, added a lot of different things all in one shot. I got better rideability because I had better control of downshift blipping. I got rid of some free play that was driving me absolutely nuts. It's kind of a wear item, so to speak, with that plastic cam that's at the end. Just wanted to go with something newer and obviously, less worn. But for the most part, I just wanted to be able to roll into that throttle and have it be more intuitive, if you will, without having to try to roll and keep rolling the throttle. So when I decided to go this route, I initially wanted to go with something that maybe had a stock profile that ramped into a more aggressive profile up top. Forget that. Stick with the quick throttle. This thing is awesome. It did absolutely everything that I was hoping that it would do. The riding is absolutely more fun. The bike is supremely more responsive, especially in that half throttle to 3/4 throttle area, and especially with where your mind would expect you to be at half throttle or 3/4 throttle, just based on how your wrist is moving around. And that's another thing. If you have too much of a throttle twist, you wind up with a weird, like you've got some intuitive physics. When you first get onto a bike, there's a certain amount of effort and twist that you expect to put into the throttle and get a certain acceleration out of. And with a stock throttle, sometimes well, it just isn't there. You kind of lose that connection. But with this throttle, and especially with this motorcycle, it fits it absolutely perfectly. I was initially a little bit worried because these Triumph triples are extremely snappy. In fact, they've got a lot of the snap of a big V twin, like a Ducati or MV Agusta, like the older hot rod style Ducatis used to have back in the day. My RC51 fits the bill really well, something that with a lot of tip-in throttle snap. Well, these Triumphs kind of have a pretty decent taste of that themselves. And so I was a little bit worried that it was going to be a bit too snappy. No, absolutely wrong. As a matter of fact, my transition from being at partial or maintenance throttle in a corner or in a light, nice long sweeper, and then rolling out of as I apex the corner and then roll into a partial tuck or a full tuck at wide open throttle is extremely smooth. It's far smoother than what it was, and I feel like I've got a lot more control of the bike now with this throttle. So although it might be a little bit counterintuitive, by making the bike more responsive, I actually feel like the bike is a little bit safer. So that's my take on this G2 throttle. It got me everything that I was looking for with the bike. It is a very pleasant surprise that the bike is so smooth. And I feel, again, like I've got a level of control now with this bike that is a bit more intuitive than the original stock throttle. So with that, hope that helps you out. Post up your comments. Let me know what you think. If you've got one of these quick throttles on your bike, how did you like it? Did you go with the tamer cam? Did you calm it down a little bit? Or did you go just full Monty like I did and just, give me the quicker one and let's rock that out? By the way, this isn't my first quick throttle that I've had on my track bike, my GSX-R 750. I had nothing but quick throttles on those bikes that I've had at the track and loved them, but that you can't compare one bike to the next. And in this case, it fit. It's freaking skeeters, man. Anyway, it fit the bill perfectly. So with that, I got to wrap it up. Hope that helps you. Y'all have a great one. Adios.